They thought their tech was perfect. Until humans got their hands on it. Admiral Karvek's mandibles clicked in frustration as the holographic war map flickered in front of him. The Zalari Dominion had never suffered a breach like this. It was impossible. Their security systems were impenetrable, hardened by quantum encryption, biocoded access, and redundant AI firewalls. Yet the humans had hacked them. Not just hacked, they had rewritten the entire system in less than an hour. A trembling officer's voice shattered the tense silence. "Sir, they're inside the mainframe. They have complete control." Karvek's chitinous fingers tightened against the edge of the command console. How? The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. No one had an answer. Because this wasn't supposed to be possible. 1 hour earlier, Zalari Research Station Sigma-9. The Zalari had always viewed humans as primitive. Dangerous, yes, but only because of their unpredictability, not because of their technological prowess. That was a mistake. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Reyes grinned as he cracked his knuckles over the stolen Zalari console. He and his infiltration team had barely broken a sweat getting this far. The Zalari had relied too much on their unhackable systems, thinking no species could surpass their advanced encryption. But what the Dominion never accounted for was human ingenuity, stubbornness, and pure, reckless audacity. Reyes' fingers danced across the interface, bypassing security measures at a speed that would make any Zalari technician faint. His team watched in awe as he navigated through alien code like he had written it himself. "Are you sure this is a good idea?" whispered Sergeant Patel. "We don't even know what half this stuff does." Reyes smirked. "That's the fun part." With a final keystroke, the system collapsed before them, bending to human control like a house of cards in a hurricane. The Zalari base's entire security grid was now theirs. The mission had officially gone from recon to let's break their toys. Admiral Karvek's worst nightmare. Alarms blared through the Zalari station. Karvek's vision dimmed in rage as the unthinkable unfolded before his eyes. On the main tactical display, their own automated defenses, the same ones designed to annihilate entire fleets, had just turned on them. Their warships were locking onto each other. Their planetary defense grid was deactivating. And worst of all, the humans were transmitting everything. Not just to their own forces. To the entire galactic network. What? Every species in the galaxy was now watching as the mighty Zalari Dominion crumbled at the hands of human hackers. Karvek roared, slamming a fist into the console. "Trace the signal. Shut them down." A nearby officer stammered. "It's already too late. They have admin control. We can't." A new voice crackled over the station's speakers. A human voice. "Hey Zalari Command. Your security sucks. Just thought you should know." Karvek's vision went black with fury. Cliffhanger. A mechanical whir sounded as automated turrets throughout the station swiveled towards Zalari personnel. The humans had just turned their own base into a death trap. And there was nothing Karvek could do to stop it. Immediate danger, the base turns against them. Admiral Karvek's mandibles clicked furiously as the station's automated defenses whirred to life, against their own forces. The heavy turrets mounted along the corridors pivoted with eerie precision, targeting Zalari officers as if the Dominion's own soldiers were now intruders. The sharp hum of charging plasma weapons filled the air. A technician barely had time to scream before a turret opened fire, a sizzling blue bolt burning through his chest. Panic erupted across the bridge. Officers scrambled for cover, some drawing sidearms, others trying desperately to override the controls. But it was too late. The humans had locked them out of their own system. Karvek bared his fangs. "Find those Deathworlders. Kill them before they do any more damage." The station's security forces moved into action, but deep down, Karvek knew, this was no longer their base. This was now a human battlefield. Deep inside the station, Reyes' team unleashes chaos. Lieutenant Commander Reyes and his team sprinted through the metal corridors, weaving past flickering emergency lights and the bodies of Zalari soldiers cut down by their own defenses. Sergeant Patel ran beside him, glancing at her wrist display. "Base's security AI is fighting back. Looks like the Zalari are trying to regain control." Reyes grinned. "Let him try." He tapped a command into his data pad, triggering another override. A deep tremor shook the station. Further ahead, blast doors sealed shut with a deafening clang, trapping entire squads of Zalari troopers behind reinforced barriers. Screams of frustration filled the comms. The enemy was boxed in, unable to pursue. "We're ghosts to them now," Reyes said, satisfied. "All right, time for phase 2. Patel, Kiran, you're with me, let's hit the main reactor." Their plan had changed. This was no longer just a sabotage mission. Now they were going to cripple the Dominion's military for good. Zalari counterattack, a desperate move. Admiral Karvek refused to accept what was happening. The humans were moving too fast, adapting too well. But he had one last move left. Deploy the Manticars. A nervous officer hesitated. But sir, the Manticars aren't ready for. Karvek's 4 eyes burned with fury. Do it. Moments later, a deep mechanical thrum rippled through the station. Hidden compartments in the walls slid open, releasing dozens of Manticar units. They weren't soldiers. They were Zalari war beasts, cybernetic monstrosities bred for one purpose: slaughter. The hunter becomes the hunted. Rhea's squad had just reached the reactor chamber when a blood-curdling screech echoed down the halls. Patel's head snapped toward the sound. Tell me that was something breaking. Kieran's face had gone pale. That wasn't something breaking. That was something hunting. Then the lights died. Reyes barely had time to react before the walls came alive. Out of the vents and crawl spaces, Manticars swarmed forward. Their bodies were hulking, biomechanical nightmares, 6-limbed creatures with gleaming black exoskeletons, razor-tipped appendages, and cybernetic implants glowing a sickly green. The Dominion had unleashed monsters, and the humans were their prey. Fighting a Deathworlder is a bad idea. The first Manticar lunged at Reyes, its bladed arms scything toward him, too fast for any normal human to react. But Reyes wasn't normal. He ducked, pivoted, and slammed his combat knife into the beast's exposed cybernetic joint. Sparks flew as the creature shrieked in pain, its limb locking up. Down, he roared. Patel and Kieran dropped to the floor as Reyes grabbed the Manticar's arm and yanked, hard. The beast toppled forward just as Kieran emptied a plasma rifle into its exposed underbelly. It convulsed once, then went still. One down. Too many left. The Deathworlder mindset. The Manticars didn't hesitate. They moved like a pack of wolves, flanking and striking from the shadows. Patel took one down with a well-placed grenade, but another pounced from above, its fangs inches from her throat. She didn't scream. She just jammed her pistol into its mouth and pulled the trigger. The Zalari had designed these creatures to hunt and kill. What they didn't understand was that humans came from a world where everything was trying to kill them. The difference? Humans fought back harder. The unthinkable twist, the Zalari's secret weapon. As Reyes drove his boot into the last Manticar's head, the battle finally seemed over. Then his comm crackled. Sir, this is Corporal Davos. We've secured one of the data hubs. You're not gonna believe this. Reyes exhaled, wiping blood off his face. Talk to me. The Dominion wasn't just building a weapon. Davos' voice shook. They were stealing one. Reyes frowned. What do you mean? Static crackled before Davos' next words made his blood run cold. The Zalari didn't invent Manticars. They found them. Silence. Then. They're not from this galaxy. And there's more coming. Cliffhanger. The real enemy arrives. Reyes barely had time to process the horror of what he'd just heard before the station trembled. Something had just dropped out of FTL. Patel checked the sensors. Her voice was barely a whisper. Sir, it's not Zalari. Reyes turned to the viewport. A new fleet was arriving. Massive, jet-black ships with no visible markings, no communication signals. Just pure, silent dread. And then, the station's stolen systems flickered. And something from that fleet took control. The Manticars? They had just been a scouting force. The real invasion was here. The new enemy has arrived. Reyes' breath turned shallow as he stared through the viewport at the massive jet-black fleet that had just appeared. The ships were monolithic, their surfaces devoid of insignia, communication lights, or markings. Just void black hulls that seemed to swallow light itself. Something about them felt wrong. Even without firing a shot, they projected an aura of pure, silent malice. Behind him, Patel checked the readings again. Sir, she swallowed, voice unsteady. They're interfacing with the station. Hacking us in real time. Kieran's fingers danced over his wrist console. We've lost control of external defenses. The station's systems are locking us out. The Zalari weren't the real enemy. This fleet? It had just taken everything from them. And the worst part? They had no idea who it even belonged to. Admiral Karvek's last stand. Admiral Karvek stood frozen on the bridge of the Dominion warship Sovereign Fong, his mandibles clicking in barely contained fear. He had been fighting humans, but now he had bigger problems. Commander Varesh, he barked. Give me a report. The Zalari officer's red-tinted eyes flicked to the Admiral. We've lost access to station systems. Someone, or something, is overriding our control. Then the lights flickered, and a new signal hijacked their comms. A sound filled the bridge. A deep, inhuman clicking. Not Zalari. Not human. Something else. Karvek's blood chilled. This wasn't first contact. This was a warning. And then, the enemy fleet opened fire. The battle erupts. The first energy blast slammed into the Zalari fleet like a hurricane of death. Dominion battleships, some of the largest war vessels in the galaxy, were torn apart within seconds. Massive black lances of energy cut through hulls like they were paper, disintegrating ships on impact. The Zalari didn't even have time to return fire. The enemy was too fast, too efficient. They weren't here for war. They were here for extermination. And then, the station shook violently. A deep rumble echoed through the corridors as boarding pods punched through the hull like meteor strikes. Reyes knew what that meant. They were coming inside. The enemy revealed. The first breach happened near the reactor core. Reyes, Patel, and Kieran were still scrambling to regain control when the bulkhead exploded inward. They weren't ready for what stepped through. Jet-black figures moving like living shadows. Their bodies were covered in chitinous armor, segmented and sleek. Their faces, if they even had faces, were featureless, just smooth, reflective plates that absorbed the dim emergency lighting. And in their hands? Weapons unlike anything Reyes had ever seen. No barrels. No triggers. No energy signatures. Just pure, rippling distortions of reality held within their grasp. And then one of them moved. Fast. Reyes barely had time to react before the first soldier vanished from sight, only to reappear directly in front of Kieran. A single swipe. Kieran didn't even scream. 1 second he was whole. The next, half of his body was gone. Not cut. Not burned. Just missing. Like he had never existed. Reyes had never seen anything like it. And for the first time in his life he felt true fear. Humans and Zalari, a forced alliance. Admiral Karvek's war fleet was being obliterated. He had no choice. Open a channel to the humans. His officers hesitated. Now. The comm crackled. Reyes' voice came through, breathless but sharp. Karvek? You better be calling to surrender. Karvek gritted his mandibles. Listen, human. We are both about to die if we don't work together. Silence. Then Reyes said 2 words Karvek never expected. I'm listening. The enemy's weakness. Patel worked furiously at the station's terminal. The station's AI is cycling through old logs, she muttered. It's picking up something about the Manticars. Reyes' eyes narrowed. What about them? Patel looked up. The Dominion didn't just find them. They were left here. Reyes frowned. Left by who? Patel took a shaky breath. By them. She gestured at the jet-black invaders. The Manticars were their scouts. Their test subjects. They're the ones who sent them here. A realization hit Reyes like a sledgehammer. The Zalari didn't invent the Manticars. They were studying them. Reverse engineering their biology. And now the real owners had come back. To erase every trace of their stolen property. Including the ones who had stolen it. Including everyone on this station. The final stand begins. Karvek's ships were in ruins. The humans were trapped inside the station. And the enemy was closing in. Reyes didn't hesitate. We need to kill the station's reactor. Karvek's mandibles clicked. That would destroy the entire structure. Reyes nodded. Exactly. We're not getting out of here alive. But we can make sure they don't leave either. Karvek was silent for a moment. Then he nodded. For the first time in history, a human and a Zalari worked together. Reyes' final gamble. Reyes sprinted toward the reactor, setting the core to overload. Patel covered the hall behind him, gunning down 2 of the black-armored invaders. Karvek's forces were dying, but they were buying time. Then, the enemy adapted. One of the black-armored creatures appeared right behind Reyes. He turned just in time to see the enemy's weapon rise. And then everything went black. The black void. Reyes' mind swam in a sea of nothingness. A single moment ago he had been in the reactor chamber. Now, there was only darkness. No pain. No sound. Just an unbearable silence. And then, a voice. But it wasn't spoken. It wasn't heard. It was felt. You are a mistake. Reyes' eyes snapped open, except they already were. The blackness was all around him, but now he could see something within it. A shape. A presence. The same jet-black armor. The same featureless mask. But this time, the being wasn't moving. It was just there, looming over him like a shadow given form. And it was speaking directly into his mind. You were not meant to exist. Your kind has defied the cycle. Rhea's breath came in ragged gasps. This wasn't just an invader. This was something older. Something far beyond human understanding. He clenched his fists, forcing his mind to focus. Who the hell are you? The being didn't move. Didn't react. But the response rattled through Rhea's skull like a thunderclap. We are the architects. The words alone sent a primal, visceral dread through his veins. Like a fundamental truth had just been revealed. Something buried deep in the universe's past. And something humans were never meant to hear. Return to reality. Bang. Reyes gasped awake, his lungs burning. His body was on the floor of the reactor chamber, pinned beneath a pile of debris. The walls were shaking violently. Patel was screaming his name. The explosion. The station. His mind slammed back into focus. He wasn't dead. But he wasn't supposed to be alive either. Whatever those things were, they had chosen to let him live. But why? Detonation imminent. Patel yanked Reyes up, half dragging him toward the reactor console. The countdown's at 20 seconds, she shouted. Karvek's voice blared over the comms. Human, our ships are destroyed. If you have a way off this station, take it. Reyes stumbled forward, gripping Patel's shoulder. The Manticore cells, are they still holding? Patel's face twisted in realization. They're the only part of the station still intact. The Manticores were built for survival. If they could make it into one of those cells before the explosion. Reyes didn't waste another second. Move. Final escape. They ran through the collapsing corridors. The invading force, the architects, weren't even stopping them anymore. As if they already knew how this would end. Reyes didn't care. He focused on running, his lungs burning. Patel was right beside him, her rifle clutched in white-knuckled hands. 10 seconds. They reached the Manticore containment chamber and slammed the door shut. Reyes staggered to the control panel, bypassing the Dominion security locks. 5 seconds. The shielding activated. And outside, the reactor detonated. A star is born. The station ceased to exist. From orbit, Karvek and his remaining crew watched as the entire structure folded inward, then erupted into a brilliant, expanding fireball. A new sun was born in the void. And with it, the invaders disappeared. No escape pods. No retreating ships. Nothing. As if they had never been there at all. Survival. Reyes coughed, his body aching. The Manticore cell had held. Barely. The chamber had been built to contain some of the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. It had just saved their lives. Patel groaned beside him, pressing a hand against her forehead. We made it. Reyes let out a ragged laugh. Somehow. The chamber door hissed open. And standing there, mandibles twitching in irritation, was Admiral Karvek. The future of war. The surviving Dominion forces had picked up their signal and extracted them. The war? It was over. The Zalari were forced to acknowledge humanity's strength. But something far worse had just been revealed. The architects were real. And they had let Reyes live. As Karvek stared at him across the bridge of his damaged warship, he finally spoke. Human. Reyes turned. Karvek's mandibles clicked. Tell me the truth. Reyes exhaled slowly. About what? The Zalari admiral leaned forward. What did you see? Reyes thought back to the void. The voice. The truth hidden beneath the fabric of reality. And then he smiled grimly. Something that changes everything. Fire. If you love this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an epic HFY adventure. What do you think would happen if humans got their hands on even more alien tech? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Rocket Speech Balloon.